It's amazing what suits do to people. If you're all here and you're farming khakis, I'd be a lot less nervous. But anyway, that's how it goes. I'm just going to leave that up there for a little while. Can everyone read that? Yeah? 4 avocados a day. 4. That's 90 times what the average Australian consumes in a year. 90. Yeah? Come on, Australia. Let's eat it like Beckham. Jokes aside, I love this this picture. This is what avocado growers look like when you ask them what are they doing about their canopy management. I think it was Donald Rumsfeld who said there are known knowns, there are known unknowns, and there are unknown unknowns. That is to say that there are things that we don't know. And that's about where we find ourselves with the canopy management system in avocados today. You see, as our land and water resources get scarcer and scarcer, we tend to intensify our production, with the result that we have unintended consequences that we never realized when we started. And so that's why I started this study in canopy management and in avocados, and I'd just like to thank Woolworths and Nuffield Australia for sending me on this trip. I live in the southwest of Western Australia. Some people call it God's country, other people call it heaven. Doesn't make much of a difference to me. My wife and 2 kids helped me manage 100 hectares of orchard, a avocado nursery, and a pack shed and marketing organization, all falling under the umbrella of Avanova Farms. We've just started intensifying our production from 500 trees per hectare to 1,000 trees per hectare. The Australian average is probably around 239 trees per hectare. The Chilean average is 6,000 trees per hectare. This has created a lot of discussion and arguments as to whether we should be intensifying more and whether there are any benefits in it. So my Nuffield took me literally right around the world, but I concentrated mainly on 4 areas: South Africa, California, Chile, and New Zealand. By the end of my travels, I realized that New Zealand wasn't really in the game. An example which we hope the All Blacks will follow in the upcoming World Cup. Sorry, Scott. I was very lucky to start off my travels in South Africa, where I managed to gate crash a pre-conference conference called it's called Avocado Brainstorming, and it's held every 4 years just before the World Avocado Conference. If you can believe that there's actually a World Avocado Conference dedicated to avocados. So the Brainstorming Avocado event brings together all of the major researchers, consultants, and growers from all around the world together in one place to discuss what's happening in the industry in a very open platform. There's an unwritten rule that any IP discussed cannot be taken away, so it's very open. And I was able to meet all of my contacts that I was going to go see all around the world in that one place, which was fantastic. Now, South Africa is a bit of a paradox, because all of the early high density and canopy management research was done there in the early 90s. And the recommendation was that it was a good idea to go into high density. But no one took it up commercially. There's a little bit now. At the other end of the scale, there's a lot of research into high density systems in South Africa. And on the screen now you can see a trellis trial, which is semi-commercial, a single trellis system with 1,250 plants per hectare. And at the same farm, they're looking at a Tatura trellis system, which is 2,500 trees per hectare. This is using a variety called Maluma, which is a Hass-like variety, very upright. And initial results are promising, but the cost of trellising and the cost of managing that trellis system are still to be defined. From South Africa, I went to California. California is the cradle of the modern avocado economy, you could say. And it has the largest germplasm collection in the world of both cultivars as well as rootstocks. And I went to University of California, Riverside, and had a look at their collection of cultivars, just to have a look to see what's coming down the road and what they think is going to happen. So you can see in this picture a very spreading, low variety of avocado. In this next one, you see a very tall truffalo-like from Dr. Seuss sort of plant, and on the right there is it's a dwarf scion. And it's very interesting that the researchers there believe that the holy grail of high-density plantings in any crop is the dwarf rootstock. But in avocados, they don't think that's going to happen at all. They reckon that the most likely scenario is that we're going to get a dwarfing cultivar, so dwarfing scion. And one of the cultivars that have been released and is gaining some traction in California is Gem. We do get it here in Australia, very small volumes, around June, July. It's a very upright tree. It's semi-dwarfing. It has an amazing capacity to bear fruit, although in our area, in the southwest of WA, it doesn't seem to bear fruit at all. So it doesn't suit every situation, which is one of the lessons that I learned. In California, canopy management is very conventional. It's based on a triangular system where, as a rule of thumb, and if this lectern wasn't in the way, I'll show you, basically any limb below your knee is pruned at 50 centimeters, any limb at your hip is pruned at 25 centimeters, and any limb above your shoulder is pruned at the central leader. So it ends up as being a very triangular shaped tree. Now, if you'd imagine in your mind, if you close your eyes and think of an avocado tree, forget about that. You got a chili and all convention has been thrown out the window. I won't go through everything, but I want to show you the two examples that I did see. The first is what we call stump pruning. So this is the maintenance of a minimal amount of old wood on the tree and the encouragement of young wood, production wood, of younger than 2 years old. So you see it's a very untidy looking tree. It's based on a stump which is sort of knee height, but that big, with all of these branches coming out in a very sort of messy way, and they encourage those branches, those lateral branches, to set fruit. So that's called stump pruning. In another one, this is what I called weeping pruning, and it's basically it's maintenance of a single leader in your tree and a height of about 2 meters. And all of your lateral branches that are coming out of the main stem are bent using plant growth regulators, so that they're very precocious and they bend down and bear fruit. So what I did after my travels was I just thought about everything, and I basically grouped the types of pruning that I saw into 3 categories. First of all, the triangular conventional pruning category, and this is very simple, like I told you, based on removal of selective limb removal at different lengths from the central leader. Stump pruning, like we've just seen in the Chilean example, so maintenance of the minimal amount of old wood and encouragement of bearing on young wood. Very messy, but works quite well. The third is your weeping pruning model, where you maintain your height and you create bearing points on your lateral branches coming off. So one of the amazing things about all of these techniques is that at every farm I went to, everyone had a different variation of that technique. It was very diverse, and I suppose, you know, in agriculture we would expect that because of the diversity of climates and soils and water quality resources that we have. But I tried to figure out some way of applying it to the Australian system, and instead of being prescriptive in terms of this is the type of pruning that you should be following, I sort of thought that I should be a little bit more philosophical and just put some general learnings on which you could apply to your own farming situation. So the first one was start with the end in mind. That was stolen in the last in the last talk. But anyway, it's a Stephen Covey quote. So think about what shape you want, what height you want, and what width of tree you want. And this could be defined by parameters that you can't change on your farm already, such as machinery access and topographical access. So first of all, decide what you can do on your farm. Secondly, understand that timing of pruning is everything. The best time to prune is after harvest, but in a crop that has a 5-month harvest window, your type of wood that you're pruning throughout the year changes. So you need to understand what those changes are. Thirdly, selection is a necessary evil. We have, when we'll be fully planted, we'll have 76,000 trees on our properties. At the moment, I'm going around and marking every single one of those trees, showing where a pruner will cut. So at the moment, it's a very arduous process, but it's necessary that you understand from a tree point of view, from a row point of view, and from a block point of view, and an orchard point of view, productivity point of view, where and how you can cut your trees. This is probably one of the biggest barriers to the pruning canopy management ideas. Fourthly, it's got to be part of an integrated system. It's something that's central to how you grow your crop, but it's also very dependent on all the other factors in your management system. It's not a bolt-on. You can't just decide this is what your canopy management process is going to be one year and then change it the next year. It's something that's a very long-term program. So those are the 4 learnings. What have we done at Avanova since I got back? Because my topic was fairly narrow and quite focused, I was able to come back and start implementing my findings almost immediately. So our established orchards are 6.5 meters by 3 meters, 6.5 meter between the row, 3 meters between the tree, which gives us about 500 trees per hectare. I can't change those spacings, but I've got to deal with the productivity of those orchards. So what we've decided to do, I've decided on the shape. I want an inverted T. If you're looking down the row, I just want to see a vertical canopy and a productive skirt at the bottom. If you're looking across the row, so you're looking exactly at the tree, I want to see 3 leaders sticking up like that. Each of those leaders occupy a space of 1 meter. And the reason about why we've come to that conclusion is that in a very interesting study out of Israel, they found that light penetrates through an avocado canopy to a maximum of 1 meter, but most of it is extinguished by the time it gets to 50 centimeters within the canopy. So we've decided that our total width of our canopy on a single leader is going to be 1 meter. So the whole canopy around that central leader is highly productive. That's why we've got these 3 central leaders within the plane of the row that we're going to be producing on. Secondly, the timing of our operation is always going to be after harvest. As soon as a block is picked, it's going to be it's going to be cut. So the wood will change through the year. In our selection, we will take out non-productive branches first, followed by branches that are shading, followed by structural branches, then vegetative branches that aren't producing the following year, and finally access branches. In our new orchards, which are 1,000 trees per hectare, we're going to go with the weeping pruning model. We think that this is the best use of space and light interception. Timing of pruning is immediately after harvest again, and we'll do a winter prune to take out any vigorous shoots that are coming out of the top and maintain that height at about 2 meters. Our selection of wood is going to be based around a central leader with a complex lateral branch system. So what next? We need to prove that these systems work, that we do get the yield increases and the precocity that we need to pay off our capital investment early, like high-density systems are supposed to do. It's yet to be proven. Secondly, are we going to make any efficiency gains? Are we going to save costs on picking? Are we going to save costs on maintaining those trees? And thirdly, can we incorporate any technology into the system where we can increase our efficiency and reduce our costs? I'd just like to thank some other people around the world. They're not here, but if they watch this on YouTube, they might get their thanks. And again, to Woolworths, thank you very much, and Nuffield Australia, thank you.